So, whether we consider ourselves spiritualists or not, I mean, we're all spirit beings, so a spiritual path is just a normal path that we can opt to be on. We move through different discoveries, different practices, different things that we're called to help us learn more about ourselves, understand ourselves, because ultimately in life, we're not here to be understood by anybody, we're here to understand ourselves, even though it's lovely is even the word, even though it's satisfying to feel seen and heard by those we desire to create loving, wholesome relationships with. We're never going to be truly understood by anyone else 100%. That's for our personal sort of lived journey from day one till whenever we leave the realm. And these thoughts are coming up from a very, very intimate, sacred moment with the water and the rising today. I tend to want to fast once a week. Happens to fall at the start of the week, and something about the number 7, sort of doing that every 7 days, the 7 cycles, and 7 being a sacred number. And I don't know why I was mentioning it, but as I was thinking about it in the water, 7 tiny little birds. They're like swift or swallows. That's not the name of them here, but they flew across the water, and so I thought I'd mention the number 7 because sometimes we work in cycles of 7 months, 7 years, 7 days of the week, although time is an illusion, so that is just created in terms of a human societal structure to live in time in a managed way, in a structured way, when it's non-linear. But the water and the practices today just brought me to Tantra, and how in Tantra, when you start your practice, can either be with tongue scraping. The way you rise to the day is very intentional. You work with the build-up of energy that's sort of been detoxified from the body overnight, and you get it out of your system. And recently here, people are actually talking about urine therapy and that first urine of the day, and also using that as a drink. And I'm not there yet, and that's not necessarily anything I'm going to explore to, but lots of people are looking at that practice as something quite sacred. But the way we rise to the day in tantric practices of certain, I was sort of working with my body in the water today, just stretching and cracking bits and bobs. But I remember at the start of some of the tantra lessons we did, you sort of go through practices where you're shaking your head to the left, to the right, and just opening up the vessel, warming up the vessel. This is before Tantra got corrupted in a Western sense, where everybody thinks it's about the Kama Sutra and sex. It's really like about sensory elevation, sensory pleasures, sensory awareness, like coming back to self and how we connect with the elements and how we feel and what we allow to move through us consciously. Much discernment has to be practiced right now, as there are some silly people playing with fire magic, thinking they can destabilize souls that they don't really know who or what we're connected to. And so as a divine feminine, that is the mission, that's the intention, is to anchor into the divine feminine. I am water, so it is very interesting when people continue to try to play with the fire magic, even though we're sort of, as a water being, I'm still connected to the fire because I work with it in ways. But so I was in the water and just working and moving my body, and it was waist high, so tied kind of out, but this sensory experience that just brought me back to very, very soft space today, where I'm really finding it hard to talk a lot. And I mean, ideally I would be silent, but living situations and when you pass and see people, it's not afforded me this pure silence today, so it is what it is. But the water connected with the sky, and when I was in the water, I'd submerge my mouth and my ears were under the water, and my nose and my eyes were above the water, and I just swam out and close my eyes, and it's such a magical world when you connect with the senses, because you open up other realms and other messages can come through from places where we're not rooted in our physicality, where we allow our being to follow a sensory experience. I don't know if this is making sense, but it was just a very profound moment, and it wants to bring me back to quiet and silence and softness, because there were no words exchanged there. I mean, I do my speaking, I do my offerings, I do whatever I need to do in my practices, and I've been working with the water for about a year now, consciously. But today something changed, something shifted, something's going on locally, nationwide, globally, with energy. And we might be being called to specific mountain regions, or the water, or various activities, because they are portals. Not everywhere is a portal. I mean, the portal of our mind, we can open up anything at any moment and any time. But geographical locations might be calling us now, depending on how we're connecting to the elements and the ancestors, and what we're welcoming in and what we're being invited to explore on our own spiritual path, on our own sacred journey. Whether we walk it with someone alongside us or solo, we still maintain our own personal mission, even if you have union missions, divine missions as two, because there was something coming up in the water about, like, it's just an illusion. Everything is an illusion. There's only me present in this experience, if we so believe. If that's one belief system, is that everything is a reflection of what our mind is. And that leads to another point that was coming up about suffering and choice. 717 gone on the clock, is we are really closing out karmic cycles. Things have resurfaced from me, past bad habits, various things triggering that has come up recently, which I was like, wow, that must have come from the depths, because I've addressed it in certain ways, but it was coming up maybe for the final goodbye, as we see this 2025 out and move towards the horse year, the year of true freedom and liberation of the mind. As that is really the priority that we all need to be rooting in, is that we keep our mind as priority, our peace. There's a lot of spiritual warfare and psychological attacks. People don't realise that mental health is all related to the spirit realm. And so the foods we eat affect the brain. Everything is connected. The interconnectedness of energy, and also who we spend time with. You know, some people say the 5 most people you're in contact with is how your habits and your character will play out, will be influenced the more you spend time around those people. And so it's a time of choosing wisely, because we all have choices, and we can choose to suffer, we can choose to hold ourselves in the pain. I mean, we're at a moment where a lot of us are learning to and speaking about our feelings, becoming more vulnerable, feeling what we feel. But to keep replaying old pain and old patterning is something that I believe we need to be mindful of. Like, there's certain things like grief that may never go till the day we die, when we lose people, when we lose loved ones, when we lose soul connections. We're mourning the loss of that mirror, whatever it brought to us. But to keep replaying and holding people in a place of, you know, expecting certain things, you know, this person's done this to me, when nothing's actually done to us. It's all a reflection of our inner world and what we call in energetically, whether we're in harmony or whether we're in dis-ease. We call all of the choices towards us, and then it's up to us where our mind is at, if it's in a healthy or an unhealthy space, as what we invite in. And as I said before, like, I'm not purist, but the water was really talking to me today in a place of, like, the scales. Maybe it's just because, well, not just, but we've passed Libra system, we've come through a really deep, dark Scorpio season, and I'm grateful I've got Scorpio rising, because, to be honest, fuck me, it was a wavy moment, and thank God I know how to surf the waves right now, and I trust that there's many other surfers out right now who know what I'm talking about, because that death and rebirth transformation was like every 7 days for the past 4 weeks, by myself, in personal relationships and in the wider community here, non-judgmentally. These are just observations from my lived experience, rooted in love. And sometimes it might seem like I get a bit serious and deep. It's just today I'm in a very feeling space, and so I'm honouring that. But I won't choose this seriousness all the time, you know. We choose to play, and fun is a very high vibration to welcome in. It's not welcome in, it's just to root in abundance. But there are moments of reflection when we've perhaps not honoured our vessel enough, not meditated in the ways that we need to, not come back to self. Because many people are getting lost in other people, 1111, in other people's journey, in other people's missions, in other people's teachings and preachings. We have everything inside. No one else is here to please us. No one else can make us happy. If someone else has found happiness, peace and love in themselves, then we share that as a frequency. If we don't have that inside ourselves, anyone that's been spent time around will be an energetic vampire and will pull us down. If that person has not found the level of love, self-love, harmony, peace inside ourselves. If someone chooses to continue to say, oh, that person's done this to me and I've done that for them and they've got to do this for me, and all these expectations, that is a choice to be continually suffering about the same things. And at the moment we're at in time right now is just to close out these painful, boring, repetitive cycles that hold us back, continually hold us back. You know, we don't have to be on a spiritual path, as I sometimes say I'm a spiritualist, or spiritual path, depending on what people ask me what I do and what I don't do. And we all do a whole variety of things as multi-dimensional beings. You know, I've got a marketing background, I've got events, I've got practical world things, as I've told before. But we are in the age of Aquarius, and it's very, very spirit-led. And if we do not know our spiritual strengths, if we do not know our spiritual accolades, if we do not know what's come through the lineage for us to lean into in terms of the gifts available now that are being presented, their presence, they're gifting us. Everyone has them. It's just whether we allow the suffering and pain to continue to cloud our judgments and our choices. Because we continue, some people, there are those of us who continue to choose pain as the story. And pain is something we all feel, and we all go through heartbreak. And if our heart doesn't break, we don't know it's there. So we need to continually crack it open so we can vibrate higher and elevate beyond that feeling. But to keep moaning, to keep choosing these lower vibrational choices and then expect our lives to look different, or 1331, expect the mirror to be something different than what we're putting out, it doesn't make sense. And now we are in an era of, as we can see in the global scene, is make it make sense. People are waking up. If it doesn't make sense, people are not going to choose certain things anymore. They're going to pivot. We're going to adapt. We're going to change. We're going to minimize. If it's all been about huge, big corporations, patriarchy, and global agribusiness, bigger is better, it's now on the opposite side of the swing. The pendulum is coming back to be like smaller, less is more, slow down. It doesn't all need to be done at once, one step at a time. You know, Tantra is feel the body, feel the mind. Like, does it feel off? Is it the right day to push certain things? No, we don't push, we receive. We make space, we take time to reflect. There is no rush, time is an illusion. If we find ourselves a sensitive being, getting loads of downloads and pulling loads and talking fast, it's because there's a lot coming through. So it's our responsibility to not project that onto other people, but to come back to a space and state of calm. And it is tough, but I don't use that word CURSE anymore. We get the gifts and we get the challenges with sensitive beings, HSP, Hayoka empath, empath, however we identify, elementals, fairies. If we claim these identities, I think that's the wrong word. It doesn't really right and wrong. I think that's a bit of a weird word. I don't know why that came through. If we claim these energies, if we work with these energies, if we know them in our being, but we've also seen things, magical things happen in our environment. If we've seen magic in the water, like here in Swahili, water is magic. Like, she is an ancient primordial force. Like, she is connected to the all that was, the all that is, the all that will ever be, and I am connected to that. I've claimed that. We can all be connected to that. I mean, we all are, but some people don't tread and don't step forward in their day-to-day movements in that knowing. It's getting a bit long now, but she gave me so much strength and power. And like, what these sensory experiences do is, there was nobody down there to make noise today. It was so quiet, so many little birds chirping. Then the 7 birds flew past. My eyes were closed, my nose was out so I could breathe, but my ears were submerged. It was like the dub world under the water. My body was just weightless, and I've been told not to say that. My body was weightless. I could stretch easier. I could lean into uncomfortable areas in my body and open them up to healing, open them up to cellular recalibration. You know, with the fast, I'm on a monofruit fast. I'm on a tikiti maji, a watermelon fast today. So I mostly work with that. We'll do water fast, but we all call to different things, and this is what helps me be light in these sometimes very dense, energetic stuff. And if people want to send things to us, it can be a bit swampy sometimes, but you know, we move through whatever we need to move through, because new levels, new, you know, other things. So the level up is here. We don't need to keep choosing pain and all of these lower vibrational elements over and over and over again. The pain is felt, we acknowledge it, we give thanks to what we feel, we give thanks to the ancestors, the lands that we're on, the soul connections that we meet. Even if we have uncomfortable situations occur, they are presenting something to us. What can I learn about myself from that situation? How did I respond? How can I do better? I mean, better or worse, nothing's a competition with anybody else, other than like, how can we behave in a more harmonious, loving way for the healing of the nations, for Gaia? Our energy is powerful. How can we learn to trust it? How can we learn to not react? How can we learn to respond intentionally? Which is the lesson and goal of life, you know. It's not like anger doesn't occur. It's not like flippant outbursts, especially if I get sensory overwhelm. If I get saturated with a lot of stuff all at once, I can burst. It's not in a verbally abusive way. It's not in an angry way. It's just it's like drowning. And so we don't drown, we surf, as I said. So it's learning our emotions in these moments where energy spikes are coming. Many other things, many beings I won't talk about just yet. But I met a being from the water, and people don't need to believe me. They don't need to believe that 7 birds, when I was thinking about the number 7 in the water, flew straight in front of me and I count them. And I tend to work with the birds and count. Or that a crow just literally came to my door in the rising as we was talking about something, and the crow card has just come out my oracle deck. I don't need that validation from anybody else. I'm talking to myself here. This is my own validation for myself, of like just seeing the patterns, seeing what occurs when I make healthier and better choices for myself. You know, is that person's actions personal towards me? No, they don't like themselves. They've not found love. Is that person's anxiety or hyper energy being projected at me? Yes, potentially, because they're a very powerful being and they're not fully aware of how much they're carrying. and how much they need to transmute with the elements before coming and talking to me or sharing with me. You know, we all have this spiritual, energetic responsibility so that we can be lighter and cleaner with each other. You know, some people just act dirty. They're just dirty. And this is not even a judgment. It's just, you see the words they speak about themselves or to us. You see the choices they make for themselves, and you think there's just pain and hurt there. And until we acknowledge it and move past, which can be very deeply rooted in childhood, let's not keep choosing pain and suffering as our language. We are love, and things can hurt us, but at the end of the day, we're not really meant to be here to like put opinions on things and start to judge people. And if it makes us frustrated and annoyed, if we don't think we're getting what we want, then no one else is meant to give us what we want. No one else is going to have the answers for us. No one else is going to provide solutions for what we need. We have our needs, and in conscious, harmonious, co-creative relationships, we're able to be emotionally safe and say what we need and what we don't need. And I'm not open to sharing that now, and it's not considered a secret, it's private, or that makes me feel uncomfortable and it's taken me a really long time to get to this moment. Thanks for being patient with me. You know, all of these really intentional ways of moving through heavy emotion, if we are connected to collective energy and shifts, unity consciousness. As I said before, I'm not here as one being. I'm here as part of the whole, part of the all, part of a greater cosmic intelligence. And I trust that many of us, 22 on the clock, this is a long run, apologies, is that we start to lean into that knowing that the cosmic intelligence is here for us all to tap into. Source energy is our protector and our provider. And will pivot us and shift us wherever we need to go in order to elevate to our highest potential at any one moment in time. And if that upsets other people, then that's the other people's responsibility to deal with their own emotions. It's not for people to keep moaning about and shifting the blame and wanting to blame all the time, because it's not real, it's an illusion. So anyway, happy days.